Welcome, psychic customs agents, chameleon aliens, and termite vogons, to episode 459 of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 6th of September 2022, and featuring Creed of the Kromon, written by Philip Martin and starring Paul McGann as the Doctor, India Fisher as Charlie Pollard, and Conrad Westmis as Kariz. I am Bill Sylvia, the one in black, and I think if those words were meant to be pronounced that way, they should have been spelled that way. With me are color commentator Alex Fireheart.
This is a weird dark remake of Biodome.
And technical director Mad Matt Winchell.
How many ways I can spell onomatopoeia and none of them will actually be right?
Randy Ronson McCulloch is still on his extended medical leave, and we continue to wish him the best.
With that in mind, I have at least gotten to briefly talk to him a bit yesterday.
Oh?
We were mostly focused on playing Conan Exiles, but otherwise he seems to at least be stable.
Oh, okay. Is he still in the hospital, or?
Yes. Yep. He's still currently there, and I believe actually Aaron visited him in person, and I believe he's actually switched hospitals. He switched to one that's like about a block or two away from their apartment.
Oh, that sounds more convenient.
Much more convenient. It took
especially since I don't think, especially since I don't think Aaron drives.
She does.
Oh, she does. Okay.
Yep.
She just wasn't the one that owned a vehicle.
She just wasn't the only one that owned the vehicle, and technically she's been running on his van for about a year or two now.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
I wouldn't be surprised if her name has been attached to the vehicle at this point.
Yeah, maybe. That would be the smart thing to do. So on my end, I enjoyed the long weekend, although it wasn't as productive as I meant it to be because I messed up my sleep schedule one day. Not too bad, but just the kind of day where you're like, oh, am I awake? Am I ready to do things? No, actually, I'm too tired. I'm going to go back to sleep. And that happened about 3 times. And then the second day, I slept fine, but I apparently was about to have caffeine withdrawal headaches. I ordered some IHOP, and I was like, either I have a migraine and I'm going to be nauseous by the time it gets here and I'm not going to eat any of it, or it's a caffeine withdrawal headache, and as soon as I eat something and finish this coffee, the headache's going to at least partially go away, and the latter is what happened. So once I had a full stomach and had a bunch of coffee in me, I was able to at least start being productive. But so the end result was about half as productive of a weekend as I meant it to be.
I just worked. I did request Sunday off so we could go off on a holiday thing on Sunday, but then my mother got a fever for the second time in a row and went to the hospital instead. Or rather, not the hospital, rather the emergency doctor appointment.
Oh, and I just realized I probably could have put this under Geek Talk, but since we don't cover novels there a lot, and it's not related to any major fandoms, a new book in the October Day series by Shauna McGuire came out. So of course, the first day I got it, I immediately passed out because I had a long day at work. But the next day I stayed up until 3 a.m. And then the day after that, I apologized for not meeting any of my deadlines. But I finished it, and it was a major book in the series. So, yeah.
Yeah, for me it was also mostly just work, because I ended up working 5 days in a row again, basically just because they were like, hey, can you work Sunday afternoon? And I was like, well, I need the money, so yes. But the annoying thing is I'm very like, I'm noticing that I really do need to have consistent start times. So it's a bit annoying when I go from working 2 days in a row where I start at 11, and then on Saturdays at the moment I start at 9:30, and then on the Sunday I started at 1 p.m, and then on the Monday I start at 10. So
you can't get your circadian rhythm set.
Yeah, it's like
yeah, because of that,
and like
I
you know,
can't,
it's
I can't,
only
I'm because of stuff like that is why I'm constantly restless on a work day, because it's like my body's constantly, you gotta get to work mode. It's like, no, you don't even have to be there for another 5 hours. Gotta get ready. Shut up.
I say this not to compare who's had it worse, because I don't know your various life situation. But be thankful that you don't have the schedule I sometimes had, where I would work from 5 p.m. to midnight on Friday, and then I'd have to be back at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Done it.
Just if you ever need something to remind yourself that your schedule could be worse, think of that.
Oh yeah,
Done it multiple times. In the last year, in fact.
Oh yeah, your job's all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I worked from 9 till 3 yet today. I worked from 11:30 till 6:15 yesterday before, so yeah.
Funnily enough, I think there's actually laws in Australia that would permit that kind of thing from happening, because
there are actually laws against that in the US, but they know that nobody is going to risk having their hours cut to complain to the labor board about it, because what happens, you get cut from 30 hours a week to 20 because they can't schedule you that day. It's technically not a punishment, it's giving you what you want, but now you're broke, so you live with it.
I mean, I guess technically for the longest time they were having some part-timers at work without necessarily meaning to, essentially getting them to work 7 days straight, and like that's illegal. And because apparently we are legally required to have 2 days off in a row. So it's like, oh, okay then. I kind of wish I'd known that before, because I would have pushed harder for it. But okay, I'm getting those 2 days off in a row now, at least. But yeah, and also, I mean, like, my dad turned 60 in June, so now he's apparently contemplating retirement. God knows he probably should be stopping to doing shift work at this point. Because it's really the older he gets, the more it's gonna fuck with him. And it's just like, so I've made it pretty clear at work, I'm gonna, whether it's here or somewhere else, I'm going to have to get full-time work soon, because I mean, I need to anyway, because I just don't want to live with my parents anymore.
Right.
But it's also a matter of, if it's getting to the point where my dad is contemplating retirement, then it's like, okay, they are not going to be able to afford to support me if that happens. So I need to be able to support myself financially, which on what I'm making right now is not likely.
Yeah, the only way I'm gonna find a better paying job with more hours is if I get a vehicle at this point, which is my next big go-to. So here's hoping this year. Actually, if I get
you already
the
have a license, or
license comes second, getting a vehicle I can actually get a license with comes first. I need to actually have a vehicle before I can rely on, before I can be relied upon to actually get a license.
Because usually that you're not allowed to buy or register a vehicle until you have a license.
Then I might as well have no vehicle at all. Because we don't have enough vehicles. Period. I need a vehicle first. Yeah, I can't rely on anyone else being around half the time that I need a vehicle anyways, so it needs to happen one way or another. And then maybe I can start some actual decent job searching for something that pays better.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, sometimes I wish I could just land a job in the capital of my home state, because then I could basically try to find somewhere to live down there that is like,
any place
at
willing to
least
hire for $20 an hour part-time, call me.
Like, it wouldn't matter so much that I wouldn't have a car, because there's way better public transport in the capital cities. So I could just get suburban trains and buses everywhere.
Yeah, if I move
Yeah,
back to Madison.
yeah, I'm thankful for the fact that I've never lived anywhere without at least marginally decent transport. Like, as much as I might want to complain about the buses where I came from, I could always pretty much guarantee, like, one way or another, either I could walk somewhere, or I could get a bus somewhere, or I could get a train down to New York if I needed to do something there. I always had options, and I know not all places are that helpful, especially in the U.S.
We don't even have a taxi service over here.
Ugh.
We have to, or if we get a taxi in this town, you have to ask for them way out of town.
That's one thing I've been adjusting to since I moved to a college town. There are plenty of people, for DoorDash drivers, but none of them want to jump through the hoops to actually become like a full Uber or Lyft driver. So yeah, I'm
Yep,
limited
nope.
to buses. Thankfully, the buses go everywhere I need to, usually.
Nope, not big.
But I like if we're doing something out of town, I need to hope a friend with room in their car is going, because there's no such thing as getting an Uber 2 miles out of town for an event or whatever. All right. Anything else before we move on to tonight's show?
I think that about covers our rambling.
All right.
Yeah.
So on tonight's show, we've got our birthdays and news. We've got a month's worth of Big Finish, because I forgot that last week, and that's probably a good thing considering how last week was. Also, a month's worth of Geek Talk, and I promise we're going to keep it short. And then we have our episode summary and our review, final thoughts, and ratings. To start with, because this person is not on all the Doctor Who websites yet due to being a future companion, last week we missed that Yasmin Finney's birthday was on August 30. So she turned 19. I believe she's filmed her parts for the 60th anniversary, but of course it has not yet aired, so she's not officially a companion yet. Also on August 31st, Roy Castle, who played Ian in the Aru Doctor Who and the Daleks movie, would have been 90, except he died at the age of 62 in 1994. For our September birthdays, we start with September 1st. Bern Gorman, who played Owen Harper in the first 2 seasons of Torchwood from 06 to 08, turned 32. Let me double check that, because that
32.
does not sound right.
Yeah, no, that does not sound right at all. I think he started when he was 32.
He turned 48, so I must have misread that.
You misread something for sure. He must have started the character when he was 32.
I might have been reading somebody else's age, and not his age.
Shit.
But yes, he turned 48, because he's definitely not 32. Donald Wilson, who was the BBC head of the script department when Doctor Who was created, so one of those people who at the minimum was needed to sign off on the new show, would have turned 112 on September 1st, except that he died in 2002 at the age of 91, so still quite a good run. And our final birthday is that on September 4th, Kai Owens, who played Rhys Williams, one of the few people to be in all 4 seasons of Torchwood, turned 47. So happy birthday to Yasmin, Roy, Bern, Donald, and Kai. Moving on to our news. We have some news from Cultbox that Tom Kingsley has been found to be a third director in the Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials, which makes me just wonder how many 60th anniversary specials are there. Because we now have confirmed Rachel Talalay, Chania Button, and Tom Kingsley. And I doubt they're all co-directing one story of Doctor Who, because you almost never see that. I mean, one episode, like it might be a 3-part story, but not a single episode is what I mean.
Yeah.
Also, isn't Talalay the one that also directed the one Elm Street movie and did all those
yes,
finales? Yeah.
Her very first movie that she directed was a Bad Elm Street movie. But
Yeah,
she's done a
Freddy's Dead.
lot of really great Doctor Who since then.
Yeah, again, I can't blame her for that movie. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
good stuff about that movie and a lot of terrible stuff about that movie,
And
but her directing was not an issue.
and it was her very first. It was her directorial debut too. So
Mm-hmm.
even
Hmm?
oh,
Mm,
I
oh.
zoomed in on the picture and it zoomed in my whole browser. I don't. Okay, so there actually is some more information in the article. It mentions that according to the slates for the special on their respective Instagrams, Rachel Talalay directed Special 1 and Chanya Button directed Special 3. So we can probably assume that if there are only 3, that Tom Kingsley directed Special 2.
Yep.
Which, the question is this a 3-part story or 3 separate stories? We don't really know yet.
I like just based on like basically just going by that alone, something tells me in my just thinking it over that this might be a case of a special with Tennant, a special with Shooty, and then one with both.
That would be interesting.
Hmm.
So it's like you reestablish Tennant's Doctor, and then you establish the new, and then you have them team up.
Would be a better way of doing that.
The only thing we really know is that David Tennant's stuff was filmed outside, so he was the one that got all the visuals. It could also be something like, well, we know that Christopher Eccleston is not in one of them. There's no question of that. But it could be something like Tennant, Smith, and Capaldi each doing a special, but the rest were all done on a soundstage, so we never got to see them. But I mean, honestly, I hope there's some surprise that comes out of left field that we couldn't predict. Especially since we're seeing so much. I hope to see something that just knocks us on our asses. But I'm not gonna hold my breath either.
Yeah, at this point we can only wait and see.
Right. Meanwhile, we still don't know the actual date or title of the Centenary special. All right. Moving on to new release news. First off, we have the Classic Who Season 2 Blu-ray bundle is out now. And it has some documentaries, which is always nice. It has a kind one of those story trailers they've done. But I kind of found this to be the weakest of the story trailers we've had. Did you two get the chance to watch it?
I didn't see the previous trailer, but I saw this one, and I thought this one was pretty interesting, at least so far.
Okay. The other ones were the one with Perry and the other one that was that Ace, I think. Yeah, one with Perry, one with Ace.
Yeah.
So this one is basically just Vicky kind of talking to her granddaughter in a field and telling her stories.
Stories which also feature enhanced visuals, I might add.
You're saying for the episodes?
Yeah, from what at least they were showing in that cutscene.
Oh yeah, so like they were remastered, which would have to make sense, right? Because if you're putting 1960s episodes on Blu-ray, like they're gonna look like shit if you don't do anything to them.
Yeah.
They're made for a CRT TV.
Which is gonna be funny given that they are putting the Crusade on there, despite the fact that 2 of the episodes will have to be telesnaps.
Yeah, I know you weren't happy about that.
Yeah, that's that's like how
on official DVD is terrible.
Yeah, like telesnaps on the Underwater Menace DVD threw me off because I was like, well, wait, what's the point of putting this out on DVD if it's not finished? Like,
but yeah, there's especially for certain seasons, not necessarily season 2 per se, but like season 4, I think there's still more, or season 3 and season 4, there's probably still more missing episodes than there are complete ones.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's like one season of Troutons where all they need is like one story left to be animated, and then it'd be that whole season would be complete. But I
Okay.
forget which one. It's the
Yeah,
one
it
that
would have to
I think
either be.
it's the one with the space pirates in it.
So that's season 6, and that one had the most complete already. Because if I remember right, Rand said when he used to watch Doctor Who in the 80s, it would skip from, I think, the War Machines to the Crotons.
Something like
because
that.
everything in between was missing at the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we've gone away, or should I say the BBC have gone away toward filling in that gap, but there's still a lot to fill in.
And to be fair, a big seasonal package like this is actually a good way to re-release those DVDs too after they're done.
And I also think part of it is they're like, they have to prove they don't have shareholders in the traditional sense, but they have to prove to whoever holds the purse strings. See, people care enough about season 2 to justify us going out and spending the money to animate another story.
Sell that solo and then sell the package deal afterwards because people wanted a decent upgraded version of it.
Right. So that's it for the season 2. Another trailer that came out, which I wasn't expecting a trailer for this, or at least, yeah, it was kind of sudden, but the Abominable Snowmen, which is now out in animated form in the UK, has a new trailer. I don't think the trailer really says anything special other than showing the animation style. What did you guys think of that? Actually, it does show one other new thing, but that's related to the other article we have to talk about with this.
I will say I'm glad that they just went with this animation style again, which I guess this is just the style they've settled on, unless this is just like these specific stories will use this animation style now.
Right.
Because I feel like it's one thing that that's kind of gonna bite them in the ass in hindsight, is having like so many different animation styles. Like, I'll put it this way: if they get the people that did this to go back and do like that one, I think it was just the one episode of oh my god, why am I blanking?
Web of Fear.
Web of Fear.
Yeah. Web of Fear. Yeah, where that was the very bad, cheap 3D animation because someone thought that would be a good idea, even though that probably would have cost more than this animation.
Depends upon the studio that you ask. But obviously, it was showed that they were running on shoestrings and didn't have the time nor the budget to actually properly finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks like it's the same animation as Fury from the Deep, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed there's a few like rotoscoped backgrounds with new animation in front of them and stuff like that. And the other article we have on this, in this one,
can't read because Radio Times wants to block me.
Is it letting you see anything?
I can barely see a picture in the background in like the first half of the first paragraph. And it has a pop-up. We value your privacy. No, you don't. Get out of my face, Radio Times. I'm not clicking anything. Bastards.
So, yeah, so this is one that I think I could see both sides and why people would not be happy with either decision. So this is them basically saying, okay, for some reason, or basically racism is the reason, even though there were Asian actors working in Britain that they could have hired for the Abominable Snowmen, they decided to hire a bunch of white people. And Gary Russell, at least, he's the one cited. I don't know if he probably spoke it over with other people, but basically said that was a shit decision. So they basically made a bunch of the characters actually look like they were from Tibet.
Fair enough.
That said, I'm pretty sure the voices are still the white actors. So
well, a bunch of them are also background actors, so you couldn't tell anyways.
True. But yeah, so that leaves the issue where the behind the scenes diversity is still all white, whereas it gives the impression of diversity. So there's maybe representation, but like I said, I can see the arguments for and against. What do you guys think?
I mean, I guess it's better than animating.
Go ahead.
Like, as you know, it's one of those things. If it's a lot better than animating them to look like essentially yellow face.
Yeah,
which is what it would, especially because they're doing color now. So they would have had to be like, well, if we want to be accurate, we're gonna have to make them look like white people in yellow face. So
yeah,
just kind of cutting out the middleman and going, yeah, let's just make them actually look like they're supposed to.
As much as I would like to go with was accurate to what was recorded, which does not include yellowface, thankfully. But they did basically make a monastery of all white men for whatever weird reason at the time. As much as I would go root for that, I'm also of the opinion that if you're gonna fix it, go ahead, whatever. It doesn't really chafe my hinder either way. I would still be all for the keeping the original filmed version, but that's lost to time. So fuck it. If you're gonna fix it up, fix it up.
Fair. I will say I'm glad that it's the whole story, because it would be really fucking weird if there were like
if it
2 episodes of all white people and then like 4 episodes of Tibetan people. And
yeah, all of a sudden you have to go cut the live action for 2 episodes, and it's just like, who are these people? Why do they have the same name?
Yeah. It's got to be interesting what they do when they get around to doing the Celestial Toy Maker, if they even bother touching that.
I know a certain bit of audio that's probably going to get cut out.
Oh, yes.
With good reason. With damn good reason.
Yeah.
That'd be the one time I could definitely understand why something would be cut from Doctor Who ever. Would be that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that was just accidental bad taste of a worst kind ever. It's like, who wrote that into the script needs to be slapped.
Yeah.
Actually, I just realized, if this is co-directed by Gary Russell, is this the animation studio that was bought out by Big Finish?
Could be.
Don't know.
I don't see it mentioning the studio name in here either way, but I think it might be. Yeah. In which case, I could see that could be another reason to maintain the relationship.
Hmm.
Okay, so it sounds like we've said all we have to say on that.
Yeah.
So now is just kind of a quick run through of Big Finish stuff.
Because we're also
which there's too much of it, so we're not going to stop and chat about it.
Rapid fire, go.
Yep. On the 3rd of August was released The Diary of River Song, Two Rivers and a Firewall, written by Tim Foley, Lizzie Hopley, Lauren Mooney, Stuart Pringle, and Barnaby Kay, and starring Alex Kingston and Mimi M. Kayisa, both as River Song. On the 9th of August was the Sixth Doctor Adventures, Purity Undreamed, written by Paul, I think it's pronounced Majors, Jonathan Morris, and Robert Valentine, and starring Colin Baker, Bonnie Langford, and Ruth Madeley. On the 17th of August was released The Ninth Doctor Adventures Into the Stars, written by Timothy X. Attic, James Kettle, and Tim Foley, and starring Christopher Eccleston, with no companion. On the 23rd of August was released Gallifrey War Room Allegiance, written by Lou Morgan, David Llewellyn, Elfie Shaw, and Sophie Isles, starring Louise Jameson, but not Lalla Ward, oddly enough. And on the 25th of August was released Torchwood Suckers, written by Alexander Stewart and starring Naoko Mori. And if this was our only release, I would talk more about the tentacles with the Japanese doctor or Japanese woman. She's not a doctor, but um,
Yeah.
that's enough.
I think I've seen where this live action hentai goes. No, thank you.
And that is the end of our news.
Okey doke. So with that, we head into Geek Talk. First on the list is Harley Quinn.
And all of the TV shows are me. Or
All TV
whatever.
shows are you. All of the movies are Alex, and the comic book is mine.
Yes. So first thing, I binged the entire show of Harley Quinn, season 1 up through where it currently is on season 3. And the way I would describe it, I'm not sure I would like it by listening to someone describe it, but I do really like it.
I've never
It's-
actually seen it, but I would actually think I would enjoy it, if nothing else for the phrase, "Where's my electric cop, Bruce?"
So it's very much not the same tone as the Timverse. Basically, all the background characters are treated with all the gravitas of something like Rick and Morty. And then you get the two main characters, Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy, that are actually treated as a quasi-serious drama, as serious as anything starring Harley Quinn could ever be. So just as an example, to try and not spoil anything, Bruce Wayne's character is pretty much entirely based around the fact that he's clingy because his parents died, and therefore will not leave his girlfriend alone because he's become too clingy. And that's played off for many jokes. So that's just an example. This is not a show that takes itself seriously, except for certain plot points. That said, the way they handled things like abusive relationships and things like that was really well done. So when they actually care about the drama, it's well done. It's just most of the time it's more for shits and giggles. So I highly recommend it to anyone who's at all interested in watching a Harley Quinn show or a comedy set in Gotham.
Once again, refer to the scene between the Joker and Bruce Wayne. "Where's my electric cop, Bruce?"
Yep. The
That's
next
the one
show
joke
that
I got out of that show.
Yep. The next show that I binged was Archer, which I also binged from season 1 all the way to current. And it's very interesting in that the voice acting is so much of the comedy, because if Archer was played by someone doing a serious voice, he would come off as so many of the like entitled, arrogant assholes that you hate to work with in the real world. But because his voice is funny, it's easier to laugh at him. And of course, he's the butt of the joke a lot. The show knows he's an asshole. So yeah, it's basic. It's intended as a James Bond parody. Rand has given probably much more detail than I would want to give in the amount of time I can here. But I really enjoyed it. It was a show where I could turn my brain off and just watch it when I was insomniac or anything like that. I liked the scenes early on before they closed the agency better. But of course they can't just go having an agency named ISIS anymore.
Yeah.
Which was part of the reason why they changed up the formula. I don't hate any of the seasons, but I'm not a fan of the so-called theme or coma seasons, because I know that the character development isn't going anywhere. They're self-contained seasons and they're not related to the rest of the seasons, whereas every other season is more serialized. And finally, She-Hulk, First Impressions. So this is the MCU's take at a comedy show. There are a lot of there's a lot of bullshit on the internet about it, but honestly, most of it, 80% of it boils down to people hate seeing and hearing women on their Marvel show, and the other 20% is just people hate the fact that TV shows don't have the same budget as movies. It is a legal comedy, basically, starring She-Hulk. If you've ever read a She-Hulk comic, You know that she is, in many cases, a comedy character. She breaks the fourth wall. She, does sexy jokes. She does stupid jokes. She's, a comedy character. And she lives up to that in the show. Is the story going anywhere as of season 3? I don't know.
You mean episode 3?
Yeah, sorry. As of episode 3, it looks like an episodic show. I
Yeah.
think it's building towards something, but it hasn't really started tying loose ends together. It's just been
See, that was the one thing I
episode by
heard about,
episode
and
so
that's the
far.
one that thing that made me go, yeah, I don't think so, at least not
Yeah,
yet.
so if you like something to be serialized early on, you might have an issue. But I think even at this point, WandaVision, the serialization wasn't clear. It looked episodic as of episode 3. And then by episode like 5, it was very clear how serialized it was. So I'm still reserving my final judgment on She-Hulk.
Yeah. It's hard to say on that one. It is early to say.
On to movies.
Yep. So just quickly redoing my thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder. I enjoyed the hell out of that movie, but there was a lot of tone issues, which I basically take to Taika having an issue with just leaning a bit too much on the comedy, because there's like there are some bits where it's like this really got undercut like really bad.
Yeah, this is really not the time kind of moment.
Yeah, like I know some people felt that with Ragnarok, but I didn't as much.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing
like
too.
Hela was still like sort of campy, so it made sense.
She was still campy, but she was still very much a threat the entire time.
And the Grandmaster.
Yeah. Whereas Gore the God Butcher, I don't know if that guy should be like, I don't know jack about the character in the comics, but a character like that probably shouldn't be either A, joked about, or people taking what he's doing jokingly. It's just a bit it doesn't always happen, but yeah, it's a bit it's like, it's one of those ones where like I saw it once. As much as I enjoyed it, I probably I never necessarily intended it to see a second time in cinemas. But moving on from that to Star Trek III: The Search of Spock, redoing my thoughts on that as well. I really enjoyed this. It's one of those movies where I knew going in that it wasn't going to be as good as Wrath of Khan, but the fact that I watched them back to back, technically, because like I rewatched Wrath of Khan to just get my headspace back in this, and just because it had been like years since I'd watched it, and it's just a good movie, so I wanted to rewatch it. And then watched The Search for Spock right after, and it didn't feel like a huge downgrade. Like, I feel like that's the biggest plus I can give it. Like, the biggest praise I can give it is that it did not feel like I just watched a really great movie and then like, wow, this is dog shit by comparison. It felt like a worthy sequel, at least. So it didn't feel like,
I will say there's some flaws to 3, but at the same time, if you watch it back to back with 2, there's really not many issues to be had here.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
a lot of
like,
flaws because we're getting our big boy back.
And it's also the movie with Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah,
has a Klingon.
You
don't want to give me the Genesis device. Okie doke.
So moving on from that to Star Trek IV, which I totally forgot that. Oh yes, I did get around to seeing that. Which that I just watched on its own.
Nuclear whistles.
Yeah. It was funny because like there are things that even at the time I'm like, wait, why would you park the ship in a park on an open field that is people are gonna run into it. But you know, nitpicky things like that aside, I was also just rolling with it, especially when like I think I forgot what the plot of this was because I'm aware of what
This
the
is the
plots of
movie with
comedies are.
double dumbass on you as a quote.
Yeah.
And you're asking why would they park in a field?
Right. Well, again, I'm not like not in a like, oh, this has ruined the entire movie for me or anything. Just very like, hey, wait a minute. But yeah, like it is like God. I feel like this was really fun, mostly because of a lot of the comedy.
Yes, if I will say if there's anything that shows that Star Trek can have a sense of humor, it's this movie. Because there's a lot of humor in it that's actually works.
Yeah, like Scotty trying to talk to the computer.
Hello, computer. Yes! Oh, a keyboard. How quaint.
Yes,
McCoy here telling the doctor's talking in the elevator. This is a Dark Ages, and walks off and just hands somebody a pill. Here, take one of these.
And like you know, I will say as well, there is actually a bit of tension when Uhura and Chekhov are stuck on that ship because it's like, oh, a Russian and a black woman stowing away on a ship. That's gonna end well. Like if they get caught,
stolen away on a military ship in the middle of the Cold War.
Yeah, and especially because like like the nuclear vessel scene is so fucking funny. Like,
yeah,
I knew
the
about
Russian
it.
who was asking everybody for nuclear vessels.
Yeah, like I knew about it already, so I thought the impact would be lessened. But no, it was just as funny, just as funny as people had made it out to be, and that like it wasn't ruined for me knowing what was coming. It was just so like.
Oh, and my favorite scene though. Can you turn off that noise?
And just fucking
Vulcan
neck pinches the dude.
I hadn't seen that in like 20 years. Woo!
Like it is so ridiculous, but in like the best way possible. Like it's definitely one of those.
It's an intriguing story on its own. The fact that we don't have like a main villain per se, other than a thing coming from space that's going to evaporate the Earth if we don't have whales. I mean, where do you come up with a story like that? Holy shit!
I think the main villain was like what, pollution or whatever killed the whales.
Initially, that had killed the whales, in our air quotes past. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, just very fun, turn your brain off kind of movie.
That's what you need, Chibnall. When you're preachy, you need more nuclear vessels.
Right. Stop being preachy and give us something to make us lull at. Come on, dude. Crack a smile. It wouldn't kill you.
But yeah, like that movie was definitely like. I think I mainly liked that more than 3, but only really a matter of just the comedy was so funny.
Again,
that
it was
just
kind of something
elevated
out of left field, and it actually worked.
Yeah.
But anyways, we talked about this a bit, so
yeah, I should go on to Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball, yep.
Yeah. Surprisingly, didn't go over 5 minutes, but yeah,
got very close. I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Dragon Ball Superhero, aka the movie title that sounds like you're stuttering. This movie was, I didn't know what to really think going in. Like, I think I went in with pretty tempered expectations because I'm like, this could be like, but I came out like really enjoying the hell out of this movie. A lot more comedic, I think, than all of the other ones, but given the tone they're going for, it does fit. It's not out of place. when there is humor in it. It's like it's very like, well, it's on theme for what we're doing. I said this to Bill, but it's like at first, for like a couple seconds, the soundtrack caught me off guard because I guess I'm so used to like, you know, it's an anime movie. There'll be a bit, and then there'll be like the big anime intro song, and then we move on, and then there just never is.
Is it the
It's
start
like,
of intro song?
oh, it's no, there's none. The soundtrack is very you know, I said MCU when I was talking to Bill initially, but I guess it's more just like superhero soundtrack in general, like Hollywood superhero soundtrack.
That's definitely the sort of movie that this whole movie is an homage to that / parody of that sort of movie.
Yeah,
so that kind of goes to figure, I suppose.
Yeah, because it was like it was one of those things where like the soundtrack starts and I'm like, wow, this is right. The movie's literally called Superhero. So like, I guess at first I think even like at first I tried being like, wait, wouldn't it be more Sentai inspired stuff? But it's like, oh, okay, no, the inspiration is
No, they're very, very much saying
US
that this is
stuff,
U.S., like America
yeah,
or Western related heroes
yeah,
than a normal Eastern hero.
yeah. I mean, by that token, it's almost a bit sad that the Great Saiyaman doesn't show up. But I guess again, we're not doing Sentai references, so that would probably be a bit odd. But yeah, honest to God, yeah, like I'll put it this way: I didn't expect this movie to like really hit me on a very specific emotional level that it did. Not like it didn't cry or anything, but there was just certain things in this that just made me want to like shout in the cinema, which I could have done because I was the only one in there when I saw it. But it was just like, fuck yes, this is what I wanted. So like, and like the funny thing is the best like the coming out of the movie, or probably even said to myself near the end of it, is like, wow, this feels like a big apology letter to Gohan fans for all the shit he's had to be saddled with. It's like after like building him up as the person to take over the franchise from Goku, and then he just gets sidelined
Again and again.
Yeah,
and again.
yeah. This felt like a big sorry about that.
And so the creators finally gotten to say, hey, sorry about every time that the rest of the company has stepped in and told me no. Here's us finally doing something about this.
Yeah.
Yoink.
I mean, like they at least are smart enough to address it and not like act like, oh no, that didn't happen. Gohan's just suddenly badass again. It's like no. He has to work back up to it. But yeah, it's very like, at least jokingly to me, it felt very, yeah, sorry about that. Like a decade of him being basically useless.
Well, a decade of him proving himself and then just having the ball taken away from him again.
Yeah. But generally, it's a movie that I'm glad I got to see in the cinemas. But generally, if it's either just stopped showing where you are or whatever, generally this is a movie I would say is worth checking out. Whether that be you could still potentially see it in the cinemas or just waiting for it to come on streaming, which seemingly, given that Crunchyroll is like in the opening credits, I would have to assume it'll probably end up on there.
Eventually, yeah.
Oh, and this might be a good time to point out that there is a post-credit scene, even though Dragon Ball normally doesn't have one.
Yeah.
So when I watched it in full Japanese, I did not wait to see a post-credit scene because it just didn't occur to me that there would be one. But there is one.
It's taking everything from Western superheroes. Shame. You should know better by now.
It's kind of funny because like it's actually, when you watch the dub, it's a mid-credits because it's all the Japanese credits.
Oh.
Then the credit scene, and then all of the English credits with no music. So I realized, like, I just stuck around because I was looking at the visuals and the credits, and then the credits scene happened. I was like, oh, well, good thing I did stick around. And then the English credits started. I'm like, yeah, that's probably it. It's probably a matter of this is the Japanese version of the movie, and now we're playing the English credits.
And I just realized they weren't even worried about that because apparently in Japan, most people wait for the credits to end regardless of what the movie is. It's only Westerners that are too impatient to care who made the movie.
That's because our credit sequences take too damn long.
I mean, to be fair, some Japanese movies I've seen have the credits in the middle. So, like I think when I saw End of Evangelion, there's like credits in the middle of the movie, and then it keeps going, and then just ends. Which I think is like maybe there was an intermission, so they'd have like the credits to signal the intermission, and then keep going.
All right, but this is definitely going over 5.
Yep.
So we can go on to comics.
Alrighty, so I have now seen the first 4 issues of Death Dealer. This is the character that was basically Frank Frazetta's attempt at making his own Conan knockoff after he helped make the image that is modern-day Conan. His daughter and granddaughter are the ones responsible for handpicking people who are writing this thing, as well as doing the comic book art. The comic book art has been solid. The cover art has been freaking fantastic. Some of the covers have been his original works for Death Dealer. Some of them have been a combination of people who learned under him, including his children and grandchildren who have been continuing the art style. The story as it is so far, we have a complete chapter end, apparently, at the end of this 4th issue. Before we go on to what the next leg of this adventure is going to be, for those who may be interested, I'm not going to give spoilers. I will say, however, everything has been a setup. You won't believe the shit they revealed in the last 2 books, book 3 and book 4. They finally set up why the main character sought the helmet, which has apparently the spirit of a demigod in it. They set up the religious lore of the universe, which is that everyone who has ever existed is actually a dream of the sleeping god, and that the only reason the reality exists is because this god remains asleep. And if the
Final Fantasy X vibes,
and if the demons of the underworld manage to break free and awaken the god, they undo the universe in a blink of an eye. And that includes freeing the demons from hell. So, they basically just don't want reality to exist and blink everyone out. And the Horsemen of the Apocalypse are one of the ways that they can do this, and right now it's, I forget what its name is. I can't remember its name right now, but essentially one of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse has escaped. He has ties to events that caused the helmet to be found, and why the current main character is wielding it. There's a reason why he was put into the helmet. The demigod was put into that helmet, and why the sorceress who did it gets involved in things again. And matter of fact, there's a reason why the guy who now is cursed to hold the helmet has been dragged into all these events since literally page 1 of this book. They've tied it all together. They've made a huge realization at the very end, as well as a huge mistake made by the hero. And the end of the chapter is literally him jumping through a portal saying, I'm going to unfuck this right now. Basically doom guying it and jumping into a portal to hell. Because not only did he realize he fucked up hard, the helmet spirit also realized and got super freaked out by it too. And then realized that they had messed up big time and are now going to undo it before reality is blinked. So it's been a heck of a ride. Demons, setups, big chess moves to try and get everything involved. And the fact that literally the main character is planning on committing suicide to stop the helmet from being found again, only to them get pulled into another trap. And now him finally deciding, I'm sick of being a fucking pawn and leapfrogging right into danger to try and undo everything. So, gonna be an interesting trip, and they've already promised the next 2 issues. Apparently, they already have released at least a couple variants of book 5 and 6.
Ah.
So, here's to Frazetta Girls. Thank you for keeping it going. It's been an interesting ride so far. I can't wait to see where it goes. But yeah, also, if anyone's been watching the stream, the art that you see up here with the woman about to be attacked by wolves, that's the art from the 4th issue, and that's our setup for this entire story. Yeah, that happened in the first book, and everything just domino effect from there. Entire fate of the universe. Alrighty, so with that, I guess we're done with Geek Talk. So I believe I have
to the summary, which is you.
Yep, I have to summary. Charlotte. I keep forgetting what the companion's name is. Charlotte.
Yep.
Or Charlie.
Yep.
Okay. I'm ready.
Oh yeah, you need that.
Someone else needs to do it. Otherwise, it's all just me.
Okay, and start in 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so we start things off with apparently the Doctor and Charlie popping in from a previous adventure. They're trying to basically will their way through an area which seems to constantly be made of mind games that are trying to mess with the both of them. Turns out one of the mind games eventually actually has a voice, and apparently takes on some sort of humanoid presence, which actually sits down and talks with them after they've managed to push through a couple more defenses. Basically, after trying to nice talk it in its own technical logic, the being does eventually let them through to see what happens, and is apparently conducting experiments as he watches the Doctor and Charlie as they continue forward. After a little while of venturing into the next area, they see a ship overhead which opens fire on a humanoid which keeps blending into his backgrounds. The humanoid eventually just lays still for a few moments, they take cover, and eventually the ship leaves. They pick up the humanoid and realize he's more or less a humanoid chameleon whose lizard-like skin is constantly changing color. They help nurse him back to health with the water they find in a nearby area, force him to rest for a little bit longer, bump into apparently some sort of underground mole-like creature, which then helps them refine the Doctor after a sandstorm, and are then abducted by essentially humanoid dung beetles, as far as I can guess what they look like.
The Kromon, they're supposed to
yeah.
look like termites.
Or termites? Okay. Because they more or less mentioned beetles to me, but okay. But apparently the Kromon have all enslaved any of the local races. They apparently picked up ideas from a company that had originally basically baked the sun after... baked the planet after getting the original resources they wanted out of it. And have been then going around enslaving other humanoid races to try and basically regain their lost wealth, trying to repopulate their peoples, and prepare to try and find some way off the planet so that they can go somewhere else to continue spreading again, of the need for water in particular being of the highest utmost need for these creatures, because if they run out they will instantly jib, essentially. So make things a little bit more short and succinct. They get caught, they break out, one by one get caught up in the web of stuff again, starting with the lizard man gets broken free by the mole guy, who is already broken free due to apparently minerals and vegetable root that helps turn back the mind control of the termite bug people. After mentioning to this, the Doctor highly recommends him to get stuff for rescuing Charlie, who is the last one to get saved, who they are trying to turn into a new giant bug queen. As if that's not already weird enough. They're the added squick of basically mutating people. Yay. They also convinced the mole people to turn off the water, not only to this biodome, but all 3 of them apparently. Basically causing the bugs to just dry up into husks, but also causing a freak out long enough for them to free Charlie and others and just basically stop their mind control because she was moved out of place from her original mind control position, I guess. That's basically how they summarize it. I don't know how that exactly works when they had no queen for a while anyways, but whatever. That's basically how they explain it, and eventually Charlie is converted back to normal, and they have to the next zone before meeting the weird AI guy again, and that's basically where they leave off.
So that's 3 minutes and 45.4 seconds.
Woo! Da 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 da. Wow. And that's a 2-hour episode, folks.
Yep. All right. So we start with what we like about the episode. And I did roll the die, but it gave us the same order as last week. So we start with Alex.
I guess I'll just go with the acting in general on this. Like, I guess specifically, God, I blank on her name because I just don't hear it enough, I think. But the woman
Harley?
who plays Charlie, yeah.
Oh, India Fisher?
Yeah. Like, some of the, like, generally I just like her anyway, but, like, some of the stuff, I feel like it's early on, but also some stuff later where she's just, like, panicked and, like, let go of me sort of stuff, and it feels really real. Like, just with how intense she gets, to the point that, like, her voice almost gives out, and it's like, oh Jesus.
I could see that.
Like,
Makes sense.
Mhm.
like generally helps sell it, especially when you have no visual, so you can't rely on facial expression. The fact that she just
Right.
goes that hard
Right.
is like, oh, holy crap.
I think that might be why she's so liked as a companion, because if you look at her on paper and just kind of describe her, she's kind of one note in some ways. But
Mm,
I think her acting is very good and draws you into the character and makes you feel like things are really going down.
yeah.
Okay, moving on to Matt.
Um, I guess as a general overall thing, my God, do I miss this Eighth Doctor theme song?
Ah,
It is probably one of the grungiest yet one of the best made Doctor Who themes, to be honest.
Hmm.
I wasn't even paying attention. Was it the movie one, or was it
No,
or was it an
it was
original one?
the Big Finish one, at least the original one Big Finish used for the Eighth Doctor.
Oh, okay.
The big bassy echo, then it goes into that really eerie synth.
Gotcha. I think they did use the movie one at least once. But yeah, I guess
This
not
stuff
that
I'm aware of.
not often, I guess.
Which I guess it definitely, a sort of grungier sounding theme definitely work with this story.
Oh yeah, especially at the mood of this story. Whew.
Hmm. Yeah, this is definitely taking a darker. I mean, and I think the Eighth Doctor stuff was always a little darker. But this arc in particular takes a darker turn. So I guess what I liked is this is our first time really seeing the Divergent Universe. So in Scherzo, they're pretty much walking around in a hallway the entire time, which, like, it has its like psychological horror elements. But this time we're actually seeing the world around them, and seeing things happen, and we're seeing new places and new people for the first time in the Divergent Universe, which, I mean, it's not rare for Doctor Who to go new places and see new things, but guess the fact that this is the first time we're seeing new societies in the Divergent universe is, kind of stands out on its own.
Mm.
Especially since every time he says time, they're like, what does that word mean? All right. So, what we disliked about the episode, starting with Alex.
You know, maybe it's just the headspace I'm in at the moment, but this feels like too bleak. Like, with some of the implications here and there, and it's just like, wow, this doesn't let up, does it? And it's 2 hours long, so it's like you're stuck in that for like 2 hours, and it's like, oh, I don't know. Like, and again, this is very much like a me. Like, and there are probably other times where I would listen to this and like be super into it, but I don't know. For whatever reason, both times I listened to this, I was just kind of like, fuck, this is a bit like not way too much, but it's also just like, damn. I evidently I probably just was not in the headspace for this bleak a story.
And you're not anti-bleak either. You gave Countryside a 5 out of 5.
All right, yeah. So I
Although
don't
actually,
know.
that's not the one that Tim. I remember Tim gave something like a lower score because it was too bleak, and actually, Countryside was not that. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember what it was.
I remember he gave Countryside a pretty fair
Oh,
shake.
Oh, maybe it was Adrift because everyone else gave that a
Adrift,
4 point.
yes,
Everyone else
yes,
gave that a 4.5 or a 5, and he gave it a 2.5.
yeah. That I think because of he gave that a very thing, and that's also another story where it's like you have to be in the right headspace for that. Like otherwise, it's just gonna like fall very flat. um. But yeah, I guess I had the problem Tim had with Adrift like only hit me now for this, but I don't know, because like this is one where maybe on future re-listens when I'm in a different headspace this would hit a bit better, but also some of the implications are a bit okay, we didn't need that in a Doctor Who story, thanks, but yeah.
Okay, Matt.
Um, there's definitely a time and place for dark Doctor Who imagery, but I have to say some of the body humor, the body horror rather, blah. Some of the body horror I think this time, maybe because I'm sick or something, I don't know, but for some reason the body horror in this one in particular, I can usually handle body horror, but this one hit me as like, oh lord, oh fuck.
So the women being transformed into bug queens.
Yeah.
That wasn't good. You didn't could that didn't do it for you.
Oh, very much not so.
Mm. Oddly Cronenbergy for Doctor Who.
Or
Overly.
Kromenbergy. Okay. And what did I dislike? I was thinking I was going to say something about the format, and I don't know if it's fair. You know what? I think I will, just because I don't know how often they continued this format, but I feel like there was a lot of like the scenes after the like when they would move on to a new episode. Like I feel like the post cliffhanger bit was a bit too longer than it needed to be, especially since
Mm.
like this is big fit. Like this isn't classic Who. This isn't coming out one episode a week. This all came out at
Yeah.
one time. People are
Mm-hmm.
listening to it all at one time. Why do you need these long, like repeated scenes after every cliffhanger?
Mm. Honestly, it's funny because I think I only noticed one. The others, I don't even think I realized there was
Ah,
like a repeat, and it was when uh Karis kills Lyda. I think that one I
hmm.
recall, but the others I just kind of like maybe I zoned out because
Mhm.
I'm just like,
I
did
had done
they?
some rewinding because like there's the scene where the doctor tricks like the chief scientist and the technical director, and I think he just lets off a bomb and tells them that it's a TARDIS or something. And then he
He
sort
basically tells
of
them it's gonna transport something. Yeah.
yeah, and then I think he just runs and meets Kariz in the hallway. But I was sitting there like at first I was like, how did he run into Kariz? Did I miss a scene?
No, he just
And
literally
so
smack.
yeah,
Oh,
he
it's
just
you.
right. So I was rewinding and like I rewound so far because like the same scene played twice and it wasn't a short scene either. So I was like, what is happening? What did I miss? Like I rewound so many
Yeah.
minutes and I actually didn't miss anything.
Mm. Which, yeah, that's weird because, like, with the classic Who ones, it's usually like a minute at best,
Mm,
and half the time it's actually kind of interesting because usually it'll even be a different take because it feels like
mhm,
they only shot up to a certain point and then did the scene over again where it goes all the way through.
mhm. Like the Sensorites using the different mask one week than the other week.
Mm.
But yeah, the last time I saw something use that much footage in the like repeating the cliffhanger thing was when Inuyasha was trying to stall and adding in filler, and they didn't have enough filler to add, so they just started replaying scenes as often as they could. Okay, so speaking of scenes, favorite scenes, starting with Alex.
I'm gonna go with the bit where they have been caught the second time and they're like, ah, yes, we will turn this female into our new queen. And she's like, no. It's like, what, would you rather be executed? Frankly, yes. And they're just kind of baffled by the fact that she would rather be killed than be turned into their new
They're like,
queen.
no one has wanted to be executed before. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Well,
nobody
immediately
knew
as his
you were
doctor
going to
states,
turn them
well,
into a giant bug either.
yeah, I don't think they would let them know that they're going to be turned into a giant mutated bug thing either. So
Mm.
it kind of dampens your idea.
Also, they usually drug people before assigning them a job. So,
True.
Mm.
okay, Matt.
General favorite scene?
Yep.
Um, actually, I got a great amount of amusement because I was kind of thinking, I didn't even realize what they were combining together, but I had this sensation the entire time. The doctor is trying to teach them how to move objects and possibly get into space, etc. It's like you're gonna set them up with something, aren't you? You're not really doing this. You've already worked past the mind gank and you're just toying with them now, aren't you?
Yep.
And sure enough, literally the big
Mm.
ending of the episode is kaboom! You son of a bitch! I knew it. That 2D chess has turned 3D right in their faces.
All he taught them to make was some Nitro 9.
And that just spoiled the mood of the room. Not to mention, probably took out several guards.
Mm.
um. So I think my favorite scene is probably oh shit, what's his name? The fuck, I had this open before and then I didn't. The
Harris?
no, it's like the Urug or something like that. Did
Oh yeah. I
might
forget if he I forget if that has a name.
I think they
Urug,
just
yeah,
called
that is
him.
what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Um so the scene where he's saving Kariz, I don't know, it's on one hand like, there's the relief of oh yeah, he's here and he's helping them again. On the other
Mm.
hand, it's just like his way of being about is just he's kind of he's kind of a funny character in the sense of like being overly serious with the whole like, oh, am I, like so concerned about hurting him while he's like undrowning him. Um, And then meanwhile, we're like re-drowning him to hide him from the guard and everything. I don't know. It struck me as like, especially being right after everything else going on, and like the doctor obviously like not getting out of his situation as fast as he is, and like Charlie's over there being body horrored and Cronenberged. Like that scene kind of stuck out as a way to relax and
Yeah.
uh, let some air out at the moment. So I enjoyed that.
Mm.
All right, least favorite scenes, starting with Alex.
Um. Hmm. God. I feel like this is actually one where I've got a few options, but it's a matter of does that actually bug me enough or something? Unintentional pun.
I think I know
Um.
Matt's.
We'll see.
Oh.
I definitely have one in mind already.
Mhm.
Hmm. I guess because it just feels kind of weird given the whole reason he's there. Karis being walked through his job and just being like, oh god, this is disgusting. It's very like, aren't you like focused on getting your wife back? This seems very like silly for the tone that's been set up. Like, there's some bits of
Mhm.
levity that work, but this is a bit of levity that I'm like, with this specific character, I don't know if this hits like it's supposed to.
I kind of thought that was going to get him found out because it's like he's
Hmm.
supposed to be pacified and docile, and meanwhile he's like, no, I'm too good for that. No, I'm too good for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you'd think that they would kind of figure out something's wrong here.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, well, I guess you're not cut out for that, so we've got to find something for you to do.
Like what you don't like chewing fungus? I should have been told about this. Do most people like chewing fungus?
According
Like
to some of those disturbing slurping sounds in the background, yes.
Okay, Matt.
My least favorite scene. Here's your feeding tube. Here you go. Literally making Charlie choke on a feeding tube and gag on it. It's like, oh, for Christ's sake.
Hmm.
It's bad enough she's slowly turning into a bug. Now you're forcing a bug tube down her throat. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it would have been the scene where she was talking about like how her legs were changing and everything.
I think that was the next step after that, and it was just about as bad because again, we're just listening to a character gag as they're trying to force a
Right.
force feeding tube down
Yeah.
her throat.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay. So mine was the one where like they're going off to their different sentences, and the doctor's like, "Oh, it's nothing. I'll have it ready before you even know it because it's all of the worst traits of the doctor companion relationship because I mean I imagine someone could argue like, oh yeah, he's just trying to keep her from losing her shit, know that he's eventually going to come save her, but at the same
Hmm.
time sh- he's not really giving anything up. He gets to sit in a comfy office, probably air conditioned, sit at a computer and work with scientists. Even if he's pissed off at being there, he's going to have a good time. She's
Hmm.
being fucking experimented on and impregnated and all of this bullshit that he's never going to have to put up with. Like the
Yeah.
fact that he's telling her not to worry about it. And
He's
then
extremely lucky
meanwhile,
that she has amnesia of the whole thing, but even that's
mhm,
like,
it's like
Yeah.
it's not like he gets out of where he is in 12 hours and comes after her. Like it's clear that they're working together for days if not weeks. Like his
Mm.
arrogance was completely unfounded there. And yeah, she definitely would have been well within her rights to hold a grudge if she had remembered the entire linear events.
Hmm. Which, like, I would almost have gone with her forgetting everything as like either a least favorite scene or a least favorite aspect, because it's like, wow, it's a bit of a cop out, but at the same time it's like, you know what, yeah,
He
let's not
repressed
give
the
her that
memory,
baggage. Yeah, it's like,
right?
yeah, let's just not have her have to deal with that baggage,
Yeah,
thanks.
it's either that or
Like,
she's gonna have PTSD over it for the next 20 stories.
yeah, this isn't Torchwood where that absolutely would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
uh
Although luckily, unlike a lot of shows, I don't think Charlie ended up actually having to give birth to anything.
Thank God.
mm.
Here's looking at you, Angel, with however many demon pregnancies happened.
mm.
All right, so I guess that brings us to our final thoughts, and once again, starting with Alex.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm torn on this because, like, while I don't think this is bad, although I swear to God, I felt like the first time listening to this, it felt like the story was jumping all over the place to start with. So I was like, what the fuck am I even listening to? And then it settles into the bug stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay. So this is what we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I forgot that this was supposed to come, like, right after Scherzo, so it was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the starting bit seemingly makes no damn sense. Um, but yeah, it's just, I mean, God knows it's better than Scherzo, but Scherzo is just one of those things where it's a weird experimental thing that your mileage may vary regardless. This is just like, yeah, it's not bad, but it's just one of those things that you need to be in the right mood for. But I like generally like I feel like my opinion of it wouldn't be so sour if it wasn't for the implication of like all the forced impregnation and shit. It's like, does Doctor Who really have to be going there?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's Torchwood. Like leave that shit to Torchwood, please. Like
Yeah,
that.
Big Finish was always for a more adult audience, anyway.
Yeah.
They're like, you're somebody who's been watching Doctor Who for at least 10, 15 years if you're buying audio dramas.
Yeah. Um Yeah, I don't know. That was just a thing where like picturing the implications of that was just very like, oh, could have done without those kind of implications in a Doctor Who story. That kind of made this a bit more bleak than it needed to be. But um but yeah, it's like this is very much this is very much one where I would give, like, if I was gonna like suggest people listen to it, I'd say like try to find some sort of content warning list, and then if like, you know, because like the whole effectively waterboarding, like the torture or the drowning shit
Right.
and like the forced impregnation stuff, it's like for some people that's going to be a bit much. For me it's just more like, I could have done without it, but there are some people it's going to hit a bit worse, that's going to hit like a bit or a lot worse, and it's like, but just I think this is just one of those stories where I just wasn't in the particular headspace to enjoy it. And you know what? I think that's the other thing. This is also just isn't fun. So it's like, oh, so and like if this was like an hour, I probably would have not been anywhere near as like, on it. But because it's 2 hours stuck in this very bleak thing, whereas Adrift from Torchwood is like 45 minutes. It's like, this is a bit much. It's like not terrible, but also just I I could probably see myself never listening to this again, or if I do, I would have to be in a very specific headspace.
Okay, Matt.
Um, I liked a lot of the elements of this story, but there are definitely some of the elements. And maybe again, it's just because I'm sick or something. I don't know. But for a reason, they particularly struck me as really, really rancidly nasty for whatever reason this particular time. Maybe it's one of those ones I need to give it another go on a better headspace, and maybe it'll be better. But as it concerns right now, there's a lot of really good stuff, and then it's suddenly for the last act centers around this horrific, nasty shit going down, and it's just like, oh lord, why? And we keep revisiting it slowly with disturbing steps as it continues to advance. It's like, oh fuck. Ah. But yeah, a majority of this is really good, but then the fact that a lot of it suddenly centers around that for a while before slowly pulling back out of it, it's like, oh man, please don't ever again. That's my basic thoughts on it.
Okay. I agree. This is a deeply uncomfortable story, and I can very much see why you never really hear of it as being on anybody's favorite Big Finish stories list. It's not bad in the sense that you would expect to see it on people's like I hate this lists, although you do sometimes, probably from people who really can't stand certain of the elements in the story. Um, but yeah, I could see why that pushes it to middle of the ground territory. I agree that it's yeah, it's definitely hard to like it a lot of times. I don't think it even has a particularly high ending. Like the ending is pretty much all right. We had retrograde amnesia and genocide. That's the happy ending. Let's move on to the next story and still not understand what's going on with the zones in this world. So definitely super weird. And I think that pushes it toward the middle of the road. And I think that's it for mine. So ratings, starting with Alex.
Oh, God. This is kind of hard because it's not terrible, so I don't want to give it like a 2 or a 2.5, but I'm also just thinking where in the 3 range do I want to go? You know what? The acting, despite the fact that this is just so bleak and it's like, I could do without ever listening to this again, the acting is still enough, and there are still enough good elements to it that I'm going to give this a 3.5.
3.5. Matt.
Mm, the acting is really good. The story is like ran really good up until that one particular point, and after we get past it, at least they recover from it. But it's like I, in my soul, don't feel like I've recovered from it. So I'm gonna have to. Mm, yeah, I have to at least put down a point for sure for the for that story bit. So I'm definitely at a 4 right now.
At a 4. Okay.
I'm at 4. It's borderline going, almost going 3.5, but it hasn't quite yet. I want to give it one more chance, and if it doesn't get better, maybe it will go down.
Gotcha. I'm I'm trying to think if I have an actual reason for it to be below a 4, other than just like my gut is like I'm not, quite sure about putting it up that high. I think this is one story like where if we know what's going on with the zones and everything, it's a lot easier to give a final rating to. At the moment, I'm going to give this a 3.5. But if we find out at some point in the future like that, the story with the zones and everything is actually really good and makes sense, that might bump it up to a 4. So with that as it is, that gives us a 3.67 average. And if I were to go to the ratings, or the rankings, I meant to say. So that puts us in the range of 256 or 257. It is not on par with any Big Finish stories. But it is not quite as good as Big Finish Master, War Doctor the Innocent, or Fourth Doctor Adventures the Evil One. And it is better than Big Finish Dust Breeding. So let us know in the comments what you thought of this week's episode if you've listened to it. And since you've got this far, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe on YouTube to get our exports every week, or follow us on Twitch to get notified when we stream. Next time, we move from Cariz's first story to his last with Absolution, written by Scott Allen Woodward and starring Paul McGann as the Doctor, India Fisher as Charlie Pollard, and Conrad Westmis as Kariz. We'll see you then.
See you all then.